Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about team sourcing, and I want you to question, is this a real business growth secret? Today I really want to do kind of a storytelling session where I want to talk about examples of how team sourcing has worked for other companies. So if you think about team sourcing, really what we do is we are able to get growth in companies and freedom in their business. So do you wish you could start companies without having it take up all your time? You think about business and all the things that go into it, all the pain points that we have. I really want to show you through team sourcing how you can actually get your business to run without you, and you can then go further faster. So many entrepreneurs end up burned out, broke, even sometimes bankrupt because they aim for growth at all costs. And that really is a big mistake, because what happens is that we use the tools and the solutions that we know are out there that are mainstream. And we think, well, everybody else is using them, so it must be the key to business growth. There's a science to it where you need to, and an art where you need to know what you need to do at each stage of your business and make sure you don't get too ahead of yourself or too farther along. So I'm gonna kind of give you examples of literally a Fortune 500 client that's used team sourcing all the way down to a startup. So you can see in a company in between. So you can see the different extremes on how team sourcing has worked for large companies all the way down to small and across industries. And you might say, wow, that sounds too good to be true, or are you doing too much? But the thing is all we've done is taken the 80% that's the same in every business. So you think about every business is doing too much, really, because all the 80% is everybody else is doing the exact same thing too, over and over and over again. And we keep reinventing the wheel. So I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I can't see that many business owners keep going through all of the same pain points. So I'm like, I'm gonna take those, I'll take them for you. If all I wanted was to find the easiest company to build, I promise you I would not have built team sourcing. It is a beast, we do a lot, and I'm taking on a really big endeavor, but for the benefit of you. I would rather take on more employees so you don't have to. I would rather go find best practices so you don't have to. So in this video, I want to talk to you about a concept I created called team sourcing and how it can dramatically change your business. So let's go ahead and get started. So a client recently told me or my team that team sourcing is the future. And I know I'm a little bit biased, but it made me a little excited because I put a lot of energy and effort into this model. And so it was really cool to hear a client say that and know the value of what it brings. So today I'm gonna, again, like I said, talk about different scenarios and how it's worked for different companies. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so the first company is a really large plasma company, and they are all over the world, but in the US they have about 250 locations. And so what was great about this company is that we're able to stress test a lot of the models and what works and doesn't work. And so what we did was we started with doing a level of just basic tasks, and then that grew into answering about 600 to 800 calls a day for them, this program that they were doing. They came to us and said, hey, we want to create an employee experience program, but can you help me strategize it? So I had built enough of a relationship with them at this time that they came to me and wanted me to help them strategize how they can do an employee experience program. And so I went, and I was planning to actually outsource this component, and I went to other places and started to see what they did. And we had a good culture internally at our company. You know, we hadn't yet created an employee experience department. And so I went and I started to see what other people were doing, and I just wasn't happy. Again, you're gonna realize I'm kind of picky. I wasn't really happy with the way they were doing. I feel like they were missing the mark on what it was. And so I went and put a proposal together and implemented our first employee experience program and client really in that department. It was great. They implemented an actual program where we had a technology that we put in to all of their break rooms across the country, and we managed lots and lots of content for them. So we created ideas on how to celebrate birthdays. So they would send us reports and we'd celebrate birthdays and anniversaries or different things that all the different centers did. We went and created that and displayed them in the break room. And what was cool about this is this was a fun way to actually get content from all these places. And so I'm gonna show you the benefit of having an outsourcing company where it's all done under one roof. So what we're able to do is we actually created an actual calendar where we said, here's different things that you can come up with for different content throughout the month. We actually printed out a calendar and mailed them to all the different locations. And so then they would feed us content and we would go and put them in the break rooms of different centers. This is where it gets really cool. So we also have a marketing department, right? And so hey, and instead of reinventing the wheel and having you have to create whole new content for social media posts, we were able to, the way we did the social calendar, we did it with both employee experience and external in mind. So they would look at the calendar and come up with ideas, and they would send us that content, and we actually would then create posts to put on their social platforms. And even today we're still managing 250 locations of putting posts out there. And then now we manage all of the replies that come in from all those posts. So we have our OmniSupport team, which goes in and manage the replies of all those tickets. So this is a really big example, but really cool to show how when all of it's done under one roof, we can be very strategic in how we integrate departments together. And that allows you to hyper-focus on your key components. And so that's one of the fun examples that we have of team sourcing and how it works. Okay, so this next example is it's a nonprofit, it's a mid-sized company, and they are an example. They've been a client now, I think, for about 8 years, and they came to us when we needed help with their support tickets. So they have an entrepreneur mentorship online program, and a lot of times we have to remove people from there, add people from there, do kind of a tier 1 type tech support for them, and also manage all their support tickets. And so this is an example where they literally 7-8 years ago came to us with this need, and literally 7-8 years later, we're still doing the exact same thing, modified a little bit here and there. Every month we look at data and statistics, but that helps give them a feedback loop to them on what they might need to change in their system or their portal or those kind of things. And so the meetings each month are more for that, probably more of a feedback loop to them. But it's a great way that once you get to a point, once you know what the process is and what you need, how you can kind of automate it and get it to work without you. So this is a great example of maybe you don't want a ton of different things. Like the first example is like where I get really excited, where you can get really strategic and innovative with all the different departments. But maybe you just have one thing that's a big pain point and you just want to get to where it can run without you. Obviously if we lose a team member, we retrain them and get them back in to do that. If you did it with anybody else, a lot of times you have to still go and do a lot of the project management and oversight of that. So when a client gets something over to us, we expect to own that and to manage all of that turnover and just changes that have to happen for the training. Okay, now I want to give you an example of a startup. So what was cool is the big company that I talked about, there was several people that actually broke off from them and got some venture capital funding and started a startup in the medical space as well. And it was kind of a very innovative kind of concept and product. Because they had used us before, they came to us and we actually right out of the gate, because this is a situation where in a startup, it does work too. They had money behind them, right? So it makes it a little easier to kind of fuel past that. And they had a very clear vision and very clear pathway of the way they wanted to go, because they'd been in the same space for a lot of years. So it wasn't like it was a whole new concept they were doing. It was just that we needed to put some fuel behind it. So we were able to implement really their whole telephony system where we're able to answer all of their calls and transfer to their different centers and different things that they had done. And so this is another awesome example of, maybe you're in the foundations phase and there's, again, one thing that you need to do to get off your plate. But it works whether you're a startup all the way to a Fortune 500. But I will say this, I've talked about what you need to do in each phase, or there's different things you need to do in each phase. So again, if you're in that foundation phase, there's foundational things that you have to figure out before you let go of it. And you as the entrepreneur, you're the one that owns the vision. You're the one that needs to go and get your first 10 customers. Figure out if there's a market fit for what you're wanting to sell. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things. So just know which phase you're at and kind of stay in your lane. Like I say, again, like sit on your hands as entrepreneurs sometimes, let the process work and get through those different stages. Okay, so one more client example. It's actually a brand new client that we're onboarding actually right now. And we had looked at the data. We met with them and they wanted us to answer all their calls. They had more leads than they knew what to do with. They were growing super fast and they're like, they had so many calls that were just drowning them and they weren't getting to them. And so I said, okay, pull us your stats on how many calls you have. And he sent it to us. He's like, I'm shocked on how many calls, inbound, outbound, that we had. Like they had 20,000 calls in a month. And he was like, there's no way, like how would we have 20,000 calls in a month that showed on their telephony system? And when we really dug into the data, what we realized is that what happens when you don't answer a phone call is it becomes this back and forth game, right? You miss a phone call, you call the person back. They miss the phone call, they call you back. And so what we found was his 20,000 calls was probably more about 5,000 calls a month. We haven't started it yet, so we don't know exactly what that number is, but we realized like, oh my goodness, like this is the effect that happens when you're still trying to do it all yourself. You don't realize that there's a scalable solution that can grow with you where you just pay for what you use, right? He really was probably paying more to get these 20,000 calls answered or missed, right? Where you have to return them out. I mean, can you just feel the inefficiency with this one little aspect of this person's business? And so like this was a massive pain point for him. And it's such a simple one for us because we've been in the telephone answering service company for literally 15 years. So this is like one that's so simple for us to implement and get going. And so it was just a really big weight off his shoulders. And that's kind of what I love is the way I look at outsourcing is it's a way be to kind of like when you go to a spa. It should feel like a spa. You're like, wow, this is what it's supposed to be like. Like right now I am recording this YouTube video. I actually outsourcing these YouTube videos. So I kind of practice what I preach. I wanted to go find somebody that was niched in a thing for this specific situation. So I went and I found an outsourcing company to do this. And so what's cool about this is like, I literally come and they take care of it all, and I just get to talk to you all, and it makes me very happy. And so that's the same thing that I want to do with when people come into my outsourcing companies. I want it to feel like a spa where, yes, you still have to do hard work, you still have to do your things, but the things that we're good at, let go and ride the wave with it, you know, and just enjoy the process and enjoy the journey. Okay, so before I go into this new thing that we're implementing within TeamSourcing, I'm really excited about it. It's a new thing we added into the program. I would love it if you would like this video and subscribe to this channel. And again, share it with other entrepreneurs so we can grow kind of a community of entrepreneurs that really want to challenge the way we do business. So with that said, let's go ahead and dig into this last part of TeamSourcing, which I'm really excited about. So one of the things we always do is every time we run into a problem, we're like, man, why is this entrepreneur struggling with this? Or why are they struggling outsourcing this? Or why can't they let go? We're always analyzing the psychology of it. And it's like, what is keeping entrepreneurs from doing this stuff? And one of the things we realize is as entrepreneurs, we are unique. We are literally the 1% crazy that you don't realize a lot of the other world isn't like us. We think they are because we usually associate with a lot of people like us. And so we think that this is the majority, the world is like us, but it really isn't. Now that I've built a big team, I realized that it takes some talent to be able to work with people that aren't like us. And over the years, I've gotten pretty good at it. I've gotten people where they can take something that comes from the visionary and pull it all the way through the organization. But what happens is, as visionaries, we need those people tight and close to us that we can just spit things out to and that they can take them and then run with them. I always talk about, like, as visionaries, we're the why person, and you need people that are how-minded, that don't get glossy-eyed when you start talking vision. Have you ever talked to people about your vision and you're like, okay, they're obviously tuning out? Most people will tune out. There's actually a small percentage of people that you need to couple with that won't tune out, that will say, okay, I get it, I know what you need. And then they go and simplify it. I'm one to complicate things, so I need people around me that will go and take the things and simplify it out. Okay, so I'm really excited about this new addition as an executive assistant, because the thing is, as entrepreneurs, we need somebody to help hold us accountable. And the thing that's different between an executive assistant and a virtual assistant is that an executive assistant is a little more hard-nosed. They get to know you personally. And that I think is super important, because a lot of this outsourcing stuff, it can be kind of a little bit more hands-off, but you still need that person that gets to know you and your quirks and what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, you know, what things that they need to do to help you to get your business moving forward. And so we realized that if we could put this connection piece in to help segue the gap between, hey, our big behemoth of a model and the executive assistant, how we can kind of connect the two, because then they can know, like for me, I hate filling out forms. So I can then say, hey, as an executive assistant, then come and help me fill out the form, even though, yes, I'm capable of it, but just having somebody else do the busy work for me is such a huge saver for me. Or another thing is, because they know me and they know how I am, they can usually write an email better than me, or call people up, or protect my time a little more, or they can go in and schedule things for you, because they know your tolerance, they know what you're willing to have them do, what they're willing to not do. So I really am a believer, it's kind of more of a connector, so to speak, between the bigger model and the entrepreneur, and it really is giving you a how person to support you, and you're the why person, right? You need to own the vision, but you need somebody to help carry it through into the organization. And so that's kind of, we're really excited to be launching that, and it's already helping out. My husband has a business, and he's was our first guinea pig with the program, and it was super cool to just experience, because I don't really work with him on his business. And so this executive assistant has literally been a lifesaver, because she's been able to get to know like what he's good at, the team sourcing model in a very small nutshell. There's obviously so much more that goes into it, but if you're interested in learning more about team sourcing, you can actually go to discoverteamsourcing.com. It's free to apply, and what's even great is after you apply, you actually can even get a free strategy call, because you're like, well, this is great, but how can this work for me? That really is what it's about. Take advantage of that free strategy call and get on with a team sourcing specialist. So if you want to learn more, go ahead and go to discoverteamsourcing.com, and we'll put that down in the description as well as in the comments. All right, see you there. Talk to you soon.